Okay, perfect. So I wanted to ask you if, for Fairtrasa, is that how you pronounce it?
Exactly, Fairtrasa.
Fairtrasa. Did you always have like an interest in fair trade and sustainable farming?
I always had an interest in fair trade.
Okay.
So this was from the very beginning, when the movement started. And sustainable farming, not so much. I mean, my grandparents are farmers, but it wasn't my
Okay.
initial interest. The key interest I had was always sort of the fair trade. Global trade has been always important to me, and the fair trade aspect was what really sort of interested me most.
Okay. And did you see that, like in your travels with Glencore, did that really like, solidify wanting to
So,
leave?
no, yeah, I mean, actually, the Glencore things, the story just came before. So I was at that time, I was working for Glencore, and I had this very interesting and very, very important position where I was sort of responsible for mergers and acquisition type of projects. I was basically traveling around the globe and living in airplanes and meeting rooms
Mm-hmm.
and hotels, and this was a very exciting time. But then I was one of the key thing when I realized I wanted to change my life was this epiphany that you may have heard about, is that I was on the board of 3 mines in Peru, and I was for the first time really exposed to what is happening on the ground, not outside the meetings room.
Mm-hmm.
What is the real life of miners in that situation, and because I went to see them and I saw how they live, under what incredible conditions that they live, and then the company was making a reorganization, and many of these miners lost their job, and this was when sort of I had this epiphany, and I realized I'm making the rich richer, the poor poorer with my job, so I need to change something, and this was sort of what then triggered my decision to leave Glencore and reconsider what shall I do with my life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when I left Glencore without knowing what I was going to do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I didn't know this. I just knew I wanted to reconsider what to do with life. And then I decided to do a sabbatical, far away, and I picked Mexico for this.
Oh, wow.
And I picked Mexico because Mexico was one of the few countries I've never been to, and I wanted to go to a country that's like a neutral country where I could think about what to do with my life,
Yeah.
And only when I was in Mexico, only after months of reflecting what is it the next thing that I should do in my life, I realized that I really like international trading. It's really that is my passion, but it needs to be fair trading.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen a lot of trades that were not particularly fair, and this is when I remembered, that I loved the fair trade label so much, and then it's when I started to investigate about it. And because I happened to be in Mexico, I looked at what could I do in Mexico, and then
Mm-hmm.
in Mexico was it where this is the largest avocado grower in the world, and then I went to see how these farmers live, and then I saw how they live in poverty and how it's difficult for them to make a living, and this is how I then started the organization.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's so nice that, like, there's so many industries that, they start up and they don't see, what their like daily life of the supplier is and that sort of thing. So, it's refreshing. So also I wanted to ask you, like, how did you develop the 3-tier, like, farming development method?
So I started just following the fair trade principles.
Okay.
I was the first one in the world with the fair trade avocados, and I was the first one with the fair trade wine from Argentina. So I was a pioneer with a lot of fair trade items, but following the fair trade rule.
Mm-hmm.
Now the fair trade rule, the fair trade criteria, to get certified, these are like a set of standards. So to be able to certify a farmer cooperative, you need to comply with these standards. Now these are quite restrictive or difficult standards to comply with. So And then I realized that many of these farmers that we work with, they're not on the level that they can comply with this.
Yeah.
Because you need to be on a much higher development level. So then I realized that the really poor farmers, the one who have the highest need, they first need some support to get there. Because otherwise you can only sort of the rich amongst the poor farmers, or the more developed amongst the underdeveloped farmers can get benefit from the fair trade system. And the fair trade system should really be a system that works for all. And this is when I developed a system that would take the farmers from the subsistence levels to a developed stage. And this is why the fair trade. This is why we developed the 3-tier model, because we realized that the fair trade model would not cater to those farmers, and whereas the 3-tier model really takes them from level 1 and moves them up to level 3.
Okay, and so level 3 is like they're officially fair trade certified, that sort of thing.
Yeah, these are developed farmers who have a certification, who meet the qualities of international markets, who can sell on international markets.
Okay.
Because there's a very big difference. There's a very big difference between somebody who sells on the local market with a product that is of inferior quality, or when you develop him and they meet international product quality standards.
Oh wow! And so, would you be able to explain also like your pricing model, the way that pricing works for like your fair trade products? Because I noticed on the website it was selling at a premium, and then I just would like to further understand.
So the way we do this is basically we look at what is the market price that we can pay for a certified product. So it's more like a top-down approach. And all the fair trade ones, for the fair trade product, you do have a minimum guaranteed price.
Oh, okay.
So this is like public information. You can see what is the minimum price for organic bananas in the Dominican Republic, for example. But you can only do this if you sell this, if you are certified and these bananas meet these quality standards. Now we did a study where we looked at what is the price that a farmer gets who sells on the local market, and it's a significant difference. It's like if you consider the fair trade premium, it is like 8 times more.
Oh, wow.
That you can pay a farmer who meets those criteria. So meaning it can really be a life changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is the big difference that we create. But this is not philanthropy. This is not that just, what this is we go to farmers and we tell them, you are my business partner in a way, and you have to do A, B, C, and D, to make sure you meet that quality. And when you meet that quality, we can pay you that price. But so it's important that the farmers comply with this.
Yeah.
So if somebody, and the way we do this with farmers, it's like an invitation. We say, look, farmers, we invite you to be part of this network, but subject that you can get the quality to that standard, because otherwise you cannot sell those.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a big effort from the farmers themselves.
Oh, okay. And I was wondering, how do you network out to these farmers?
So the way it works, it's a good question, because I'm from Switzerland originally, so I'm European. I lived in Mexico, and when I traveled around the country and the continent, I realized wherever I go, they look at me as a gringo. And that they would do the same with you. And this is not a good place to start a collaboration with locals.
Yes.
Because locals, you need to create a level of trust. And they want to know people who understand their culture, their language, their circumstances, their customs.
Of course, yes.
And so what I needed to do to be able to do this, I needed to find people who are local leaders. And so we developed a system, what we call locals for locals, meaning the Mexicans for Mexico, the Peruvians for Peru, the Chileans for Chile. So basically, the people who live in these areas, who know those farmers, who are from that culture, who go out, talk to the farmers, form cooperatives, and then integrate them in our supply chain. So me personally, I could never have done that.
Okay.
So I depended on local leaders, the ones that I recruited, who would do this for me.
Oh, wow. Okay. And do you find that, okay, you're, doing business in Dominican Republic, Argentina, Peru, do you find that you have to, change according to, like, the culture? Though many Latin American countries have, the same values.
Yes. So what I did before I started, I was traveling around Latin America to understand, is this a real problem?
Mm-hmm.
Is small-scale farmer, is it a problem, yes or no? Because what I saw in Mexico was clear that this is a problem, but I wanted to know, is it a global problem? So this is why I did a trip all around Latin America, visiting cooperative after cooperative after cooperative, just to see if what I'm seeing is a reality or not. And then I saw it is a problem, and that's why I started the project. So then we first had the model in Mexico, and then I thought, okay, I can just replicate the model from Mexico to Peru.
Okay.
But then what I learned is, although the base challenges are the same, the implementation needs to be adjusted.
Okay.
So basically, what I learned is 80% is working.
Okay.
And 20% needs to be tailored. And the tailoring is because of local circumstances, because of customs. There are, for example, countries that don't want cooperatives because cooperatives have a bad reputation. So you need to adapt to these local circumstances.
Okay. And what do you think of when you see, like, okay, companies like Ben and Jerry's, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, they're all trying to adopt, some fair trade into their, company's philosophy. What do you think of that?
I mean, this is fantastic. We need more of those. Because we need to raise more awareness for the end consumers. So that's why it's great if all these big brands, use fair